Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are located. Please welcome to the webinar Essential Principles and Practice of High-Performing DevOps Teams. This webinar is being offered by EXIN and Defects and is being presented by Oleg Skrynnik. During the webinar, you are going to receive all the content from Oleg, and then you can make your questions via using the chat menu that is located on the right side of the GoToWebinar menu. If you are facing any problems of not seeing the slides or not listening the audio, please contact the GoToWebinar directly support. We would like to wish you a pleasant session. Oleg, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, hi, my name is Oleg. I'm with Defects, which is a consulting and training company from Russia. I'm working in IT for 25 years now. Let me show you. Yeah, I hope you see the slides, which I prepared for you. So let me introduce myself first. As I said, I'm in IT for about 25 years. More or less, I've been on managing positions since about year 2000, and I'm in consulting for 15 years as of this moment. My clients include banks and insurance companies, retailers, telecom operators, lots of companies. I have several professional certifications. Some of them are mentioned on the slide, not all of them. It's impossible to mention all of them. And also, I wrote a book on DevOps, which is published by Van Haren Publishing. As far as I know, they were offering some kind of discount for this book for you, for attendees of this webinar, but I'm not aware of any details, so I'll leave it like this at this moment. Also, I participated in ITIL4 development as co-author and reviewer of some of the books and practices. Most notable is I am a co-author of the High Velocity IT ITIL4 publication, which is kind of proud. I'm proud of this work. I have prepared a short story for you, so I'd like to tell it first, and then I will be happy to answer your questions. All right, so here we go. Thinking about the title of our webinar, there is one interesting word. And it's not a DevOps. This word is team. So let's start with this particular word. How a team is different from a group of people. Imagine several people getting together in the elevator. They have something in common, already have something in common. They are sharing a ride. So thus we can call them a group, right? And now imagine something terrible happens. This elevator gets stuck, and then magical transformation might happen as well. Now we have a team. What has changed at this very moment? Well, it's a minor detail. It's slight detail. Now they have a shared goal. They need to get out of this elevator and to get out together. So the first thing, which is quite different for a group and for a team, is a shared goal, which is kind of obvious if you really think about this. So, okay, let's move out of this elevator to our enterprise reality. And if we look at successful teams, we will find out that there are some other crucial elements as well. We already mentioned shared goals. These are important, of course. But besides that, besides goals, a team also have shared responsibility. Results and outcomes are what a team delivered, not what a member of a team delivered. For example, you can compare these two phrases. I did my part, which is quite okay for a group. Everyone is doing his or her job. And we won, let's say we won this deal, which is closer to how a team speaks. Another difference, in my opinion, is much stronger connections between team members. These includes emotional connections as well, and even collective identity. Again, you can compare just in language, you can compare two phrases. I belong to this group. And another one, this is my team. And the latter is not a quote from some manager, this is my team. No, it's how a team member speaks about his or her team. And when we talk about shared experience, by working together side by side, day by day, a team learns a lot, and it learns from its own experience. A team knows its capabilities, its strengths, its weaknesses. It can act accordingly. It can improve itself, even improve itself. You should not expect that just from a group of people. So at this time, perhaps you are pretty much convinced that a team is much better thing than a group, right? So everywhere where we look, we hear and we see the same mantra: transform your people into a team and you will achieve more. Of course, that's not always the right thing to do. There are some situations when a group of people will suit your management objectives better than any team. One of the examples is temporary structures. So let's say if you need to do something just once, it's not wise to spend a lot of time building a strong team for this particular task. Speaking from my experience, I think you need at least 3 months to build a performing team. So 3 months is quite a lot of time. But in DevOps, we are talking about moving from projects to products. So instead of temporary management structures, such as projects, we are creating long-lasting products and, of course, product teams. And this means that we can and we should invest in our teams, because groups of people are not enough. They are not just performing, they are not as efficient as we need them to. So now we can talk more about DevOps and to talk about what are we expecting from our teams, what our investments are for. So let's get back to DevOps. By the way, I hope my pace is okay for you and you keep following my thoughts. I'm not going too fast, right? So if something is wrong, please put some message in the chat. Okay, so moving back to DevOps and talking about high-performing DevOps teams. Well, in this area, I believe one of the most important thing to understand is that we are not talking about some gradual improvements. It's definitely not working as we are now, but a bit faster. By high performance, we mean dramatic change in effectiveness and efficiency. And this means that, for example, instead of following some process, predefined process, or participating in a project being managed by some project manager, we want a team to create value, and we want to create value constantly. We also want much shorter lead times, and we want to deploy several times per day or even on demand. From let's say releases once per month, we want to switch to just 1 or 2 or 3, a couple of days between commitment point and production. We want our teams to be predictable as well. Any other team which is dependent on our team should be able to manage their work with minimal delays. And this predictability is not easy to achieve. And let's be honest, it's quite hard. It's quite hard, but it's crucial capability. If you have dozens of teams working at the same time in your organization, they will be interdependent of each other. We also want our solutions not to be fragile and not to carry excessive technical debt. As we all know, technical debt kills any efforts to increase our speed in the long term. Lastly, high-performing DevOps team cannot be just switched on. There is no magic button to turn the team on for them to start performing all of a sudden. It's more like a path. It's more like a journey, and we want our team to be responsible for this journey, and we want them to constantly seek for improvement. Otherwise, we will get just a group of people being managed by somebody else and not a team at all. So this high-performance team is something of unique qualities, and as I said, it's not an easy thing to have, not an easy thing to achieve. And for this, to achieve this new level of performance, if you like, we need to adopt new ways of thinking and new ways of working. And these new ways might be based on these principles. Now, I'm not saying that these principles are some kind of sacred truth or and everyone should immediately follow them. No. What I'm saying is that in my practice, they are crucial. And I will describe first two for you. So just from the practice, when forming a new DevOps team, the very first activity we do is some exercise. It's called value stream mapping. Perhaps you know what it is. In fact, this is the bullet number 3 in my checklist for every new DevOps team, right after the formal product definition and the team's education. So this checklist of mine, which I created for my customers, it's supposed to be completed just in 2 weeks. It's just the very first steps of the new team. So the value stream should be agreed on and visible to anyone and everyone in a matter of days, because this is the foundation of how we do our work from this moment on. Every bit and every move of our work should be assessed in terms of creating or adding value, and every obstacle should be discussed and, if possible, removed. Then the next one is the deployment pipeline, and obviously that's not a new concept at all. If I remember correctly, it was described as a case study 10 years ago, so it's quite a long time ago. Still, in my opinion, it's not possible to achieve high performance without deployment pipeline. Actually, it's kind of strange to me, but while deployment pipeline nowadays is quite natural thing for any startup or web product, if we are talking about the enterprise, it's an entirely different matter. In reality, from my experience, a lot of people in enterprise think they know what the deployment pipeline is, or even they think they have this deployment pipeline. But actually, they have just bits of automation for some tasks and not continuous integration at all, let alone continuous delivery. So in my consulting practice, I'm using a very simple test for this. When I start to work with a new team, with a new client, I'm asking just one simple question. Please tell me, how long does it take for just one small change in software code to get to the production environment? And if it's more than, let's say, just 1 hour, then probably this team doesn't have any deployment pipeline. Now I would like to make this webinar quite short and leave some time for your questions. So I will not be explaining the next 3 principles to you. I will reference you to my book, which I mentioned already in the very beginning. All the principles are there with some details, of course. And after reading this book, if you want to, you can also take EXIN DevOps Foundation exam. But I will leave it like it is, and I will move on to practices, which is also a very important aspect. So, of course, there's a difference between principles and practices. Principles, they will stay the same for more or less any DevOps organization. while practices, they may differ. And every team, they are adopting or even inventing their own practices. I once made some kind of exercise, if you like. I tried to make a list of all the practices which are useful to DevOps or referred to when we're talking about DevOps or mentioned in some book about DevOps, lots of stuff. And you can believe me, this list, it got just huge. It's just huge, lots of practices. I think hundreds of them. And of course, it's quite meaningless to get for every practice that is mentioned in some book or on a slide, that there's just too many of them. Because practices, they are helping your team to organize the work, and they should be chosen and they should be experimented with. But there are some practices, in my opinion, that are quite essential. And I can say that they are present to some degree in every successful DevOps team that I know of. Again, I'm not pretending to create a complete list. I will show you some practices that I believe are the most important ones. So we will start with the releases. This is one of the first things to get rid of. Most of the time, your business doesn't need them. Why should we wait for several changes to get ready together just to be deployed together? Why not just deploy every single change as soon as it's ready to be deployed? In reality, in my practice, it's easy to say and quite hard to do, because as you probably know, releases, they are in our IT culture. This is how we are always did our job, and you need to change minds about that. Also, we usually wait for some kind of approval before we release. It could be in form of UAT environment or product owner sign-off, or just some member of our team takes responsibility for this mysterious event, the release. And to shift this responsibility to DevOps team for every change, it's quite a hard thing to do. But I think, I'm sure it needs to be done. It needs to be done. So there should be no more releases. If you just don't need them, you can deploy anytime, as soon as a piece of work is ready to be deployed. Because this way we are constantly creating value. So I can reference you once again to the principle of value stream, creating value constantly. Next, there are defects. And a lot of teams have many defects in their backlogs. It's a common practice. So especially if you think about releases, because a lot of new defects, we put them in the backlog just right after the release. And some of those defects will be fixed soon, and some of them will be probably fixed later, and some will be never fixed at all. But think about this. This way, we have our IT system and our product in a permanent non-working state. Because by definition, if there is a defect which is not fixed yet, and we know about this defect, then our system is not working as expected. And usually we are quite okay with that. I know some teams where backlog of defects is of several months work, and they will never be fixed. There are always some more important business tasks to work on, and this practice is not acceptable anymore. To achieve high performance, we need to adopt new practices. One of them is zero tolerance for defects. So when found, it should be fixed immediately. And for every defect, we want to find out the root cause. By finding out the root cause, we can improve, and we want to improve our way of working, so we are making less defects in the future. Every defect should be analyzed, and we don't want this kind of defect to happen again. So we are developing tests, we are redesigning our system, We are educating our team members. We're doing everything possible to lower the number of defects and to make our system and our product as stable as possible. This is the state we want to achieve. So actually, it's not a single practice, zero tolerance. It's a number of practices, many of them, a set of practices, if you like. Now let's move to the next point, which is communities and knowledge sharing. And you can think that it's a kind of obvious thing to do, right? Yet, I would argue that this is one of the most important set of practices for a DevOps organization. Because a lot of changes are happening at this very moment with your teams in your company. A lot of new practices are being adopted. A lot of new technical solutions are being implemented. So when you have just a couple of teams, it's usually not a big problem to share information and educate each other to move in the same direction. But when you have several dozens of teams, then you need to change how they work. You better be with some kind of communities. Those communities can be in any form. I saw it like just ordinary meetings or virtual meetings or mailing lists or some kind of meetups, anything your organization like and able to do. For those of you who are not familiar with this way of sharing the knowledge and who don't have any such practices yet, these are quite hard to imagine because they are different from what we are usually doing when managing something in the company. Communities are not managed, let's say, like departments. They are spanning organizational boundaries. They are self-sustaining. They are defining their agendas by themselves. They are deciding when to gather, what to discuss, how to act after the discussion. Who brings what, and that's quite a powerful thing to do. So I recommend anyone to adopt this practice or this set of practices of building and growing communities in your company. Then there's test automation. Again, this is the area where we need to change our practices and our behavior. It's a common thing to skip test automation because, let's say, we have no time at the moment, or because we are low on resources, or perhaps because we are hoping to write tests sometime in the future, which will happen, of course. High performance, in my opinion, high performance is impossible to achieve if we are testing our changes, our solutions manually, or if we are not testing our solutions at all. And again, unfortunately, from my experience, a new DevOps team have to spend considerable time to get test coverage at the acceptable level. Usually they need several months of work to do this, while doing all the other work they need to be doing at the very same time. Another two practices which are limit the work in progress and reduce work item size. I think they are very well known nowadays. So I will perhaps I will not be explaining them, as you can find a lot of articles, books, and case studies for these. But I think I'm sure I had to mention them because, in my opinion, they are just as important as the others on this slide. And lastly, we need to talk about architecture. To achieve high velocity or high performance, we need to adopt new practices in this area as well. We should stay away from strong interconnections and interrelations. They will slow us down. They will create delays and they will create waste. Please be sure, I'm not saying that everyone just immediately should aim for microservices or something like this. Not at all. All I'm saying is that we cannot afford to make architectures like we used to do. We cannot afford integrations via database anymore, which is quite a common practice. We are moving to loosely coupled architectures, so we need to redefine our architectural practices as well. So by applying these practices and by following the principles which I mentioned earlier, we can significantly increase performance. And I would like to show you some kind of example how it might look like. This is a simple graph. I hope you see it right now quite clear, because there are lots of numbers. This one is quite easy to read. You can see how many changes were completed during the last several weeks. This is a traditional team, the performance of the traditional team, let's call it like that. As you can see, they are using releases, and those releases are quite rare, and they are irregular. And in between releases, the team deploys hotfixes, how we always used to, for defects which were introduced during the latest release. Of course, that's a normal practice. So as a business user, I will not be happy with this team most of the weeks, because most of the weeks I'm not getting any value out of this team. Now let's see another team. Let's call it DevOps team. And as you can see, they are deploying every week or even every day. They are constantly delivering value. They are providing solutions, and they are getting valuable feedback for themselves while providing new solutions and new changes. Also, you can notice that they are doing more changes during this period of time, and their production cycle is quite steady, and they are more predictable. They are doing more job, and they are doing better job. Now I have prepared also the second graph, this one. It shows us lead time distribution. And this is the time. The lead time is the time between starting a work on the change and deploying this very change to a production environment. All it takes to get the job done. After we decided it needs to be done. So as you can see, for a traditional team, it takes up to 30 days to make one change. Also, you can see how this distribution is shifted towards higher numbers, higher number of days. Once again, if thinking about business user, as a business user, I can hardly predict the number of days for a particular change to be completed. It could be anywhere between a day and a month. I cannot predict that. I cannot plan based on this information. Or even more, imagine that you are working in a different team, and this another team depends on this very team. So you need this team, this blue one, the blue team, make a change for you. How long will it take? How long will you wait? When you will be able to do your part of the job? It's very hard to answer those questions based on this performance. And let's see how DevOps team is doing. Here we go. So of course, there will be long changes as well, but not that long. And also the distribution, it's much more predictable. You can see that most of the changes will be completed, let's say, in 2 weeks. But there's more. It's not just a happy ending with this graph. It's not the final state, because this team, red team or orange, call it like if you like this, this team can work on a tail. Do you see the tail on the graph? Let me show it to you. Yes, here we go. Those are the changes that took more than 10 days. Based on distribution, I can see that clearly. And the team, they can manage this. They can seek and find improvements to cut this tail. And they will be even more predictable, and they will be faster. I'll show you just a couple of metrics that we are using when building DevOps teams with our customers. Of course, there are more, but that's not the point at the moment. And these metrics, they are helping us to understand the performance, and more importantly, they help us to understand the progress of a team. And the state that I showed you didn't just happen over the night. It's a path, as already mentioned. So yes, it's half an hour already. I will be closing. I will leave you with this summary. I think that first and foremost, you need to discuss and you need to agree on the principles. It will help you later to a great extent. And then you need to adopt new practices. And as I said, it's some kind of a journey. It will take time. I will recommend you to prepare a roadmap for you in your journey for aiming for new practices, new ways of working. And after some time, you will see that improvements in performance that we were discussing earlier. And I will put more stress on this. I believe that this performance and these changes in performance can and they should be measured. So you will know if there's any progress at all and what your team is capable of now. So thank you for your time. I'm now open for your questions, and I will ask Ademar to help me with the questions. Please, Ademar.
Sure. We received already a few questions.
Okay.
So in case you would like to have your questions answered, please just drop your question by using the chat or the question menu available on the GoToWebinar menu bar. Probably is on your right side of the screen. And before we start with the questions, I would like to give you an announcement regarding to the DevOps book discount. You are going to receive an email with the discount code and the procedure that you are going to take to get your discount and then also purchase your book with the discount. So soon, if you didn't receive yet, you are going to receive. So please check your email for the procedure. So with the first question, given the situation now, when everyone is working from home, what would you recommend doing to create or maintain a high performance in a DevOps team? Any tools or practice?
Yeah, thanks. And I think that's a great question. I will tell you a short story from my practice. I was amazed just a month, or let's say month and a half ago, when all this thing happened and when we have lots of restrictions and everybody was started working from homes. One of my clients was in the middle of transformation. They were changing to product teams. They were building DevOps teams, and they were caught by this, let's say, crisis right in the middle of their transformation. So they had several teams which were already working with this new mindset, with these new principles, and adopting these new practices. And also they had a lot of groups and teams which were working just they used to work at the moment. What we saw and what was my amazement is that on those very graphs that I show you with lead time distribution, with number of changes which were did in the time frames, we saw that the teams which were already working with high performance improved their performance with all these restrictions. I'm not making this up. I saw those graphs, and this is quite amazing. And the teams which were not adopting, not following the practices and principles at that time, they were struggling. It was uncomfortable to them. It took more time for them to adopt this new reality, and they had a decrease in performance when they were adopting. So one of the eye-opening, if you will, for me during this very crisis is like these principles. They are helping to work. They are helping to work even in this unpredictable environment. So going back to the question, what I would recommend for any team right now to do is to visualize their value stream. So I will not kidding about this very first exercise, value stream mapping. I think it's crucial. So you just draw your value stream, block by block, piece by piece, and you agree who does what can be done, should be done at this time, what should be removed at this time, who is responsible for what, and you start working like a flow through this value stream. And you are shifting away from managing people to managing work. You are thinking about managing work items through your value stream and not managing people like you did that and you will do this and etc. So you are making less stress on coordination, less stress on managing people, and you put more stress on doing the work like a flow through the value stream. I think that's number one. Another thing which is quite good, working quite good in practice, is a very short daily meetings with all of your team. It should be no more than 10 or 15 minutes. Usually some of the teams, they are doing this at the very beginning of the day, but that's not a widely adopted practice. Some teams are doing, that I know of, some teams are doing it's later on the day or even in the evenings. But when everybody is working from homes, it's very important to stay in the same context. It's very important to know the bottlenecks at this very moment. And as I said, it should be very short, very brief meeting. You just discuss some important stuff for this particular day, and you go to work, and you're producing something. So those are two steps which are come to my mind right away during the circumstances.
Thanks very much, Oleg. Another question. Have you ever seen other organizations apart from software development or other areas, even inside at the same organization, by using DevOps? Basically, for example, a marketing team or a purely business team or any other area apart from IT, let's say. Do you have ever seen this situation, or we are still not there yet with DevOps?
Good question again. Yes, personally, no, I have not seen this concept to be applied to, let's say, business units without any IT being involved. But I definitely cannot say that my experience is everything we've got in this area. So perhaps somewhere it's present, and there are some people doing this right now at the moment. Not from my experience, but what I can say is that this DevOps thing, if we think about this DevOps thing, it's not IT thing at all. It's business and IT thing at all. Oh, sorry, it's a business and IT thing. So if we are adopting these practices in IT department, the business departments, they will be not just affected, but they will be also some kind of transformed, and they will be quite happy with this transformation. But that's another story. That's IT and IT environment. Talking about the completely non-IT environment, let's say marketing, I can say that I saw several examples of teams deploying Kanban method to their work, and this Kanban method works quite well, because basically they are applying more or less the same principles, the principles of value stream, the principles of flow, the principles of managing work and not managing people, going away from projects, moving away from huge items and huge batches. So some of the basic principles, they are just the same. And I saw several teams doing marketing job, doing business planning job with these methods. So I suggest to look at the Kanban method and these methods.
Okay, thank you very much. We have so many other questions.
Oh,
That's
really?
really nice.
I don't see them in chat, so please read them to me.
Yeah, I'm doing. So then, I think this is a tricky one, to be really honest. How to make knowledge sharing a practice in a company where this normally doesn't happen? Well, basically the communication or the knowledge is still based on silos and not like a spread at the organization. Is there any tips and tricks?
Such a good question. Such a good question. I see this practice of communities and knowledge sharing as crucial. That's the first and foremost point. I truly believe that without building communities, you cannot achieve any significant improvement in performance in your organization if you have, let's say, 10 or 20 or more teams. If you have less than 10, then probably it's not a big deal at all, and you can build some kind of knowledge sharing events or something like this. But when your organization is a bit bigger, that's a very important topic. And the second thing, it's from my experience, it's very hard thing to do. And if your organization is hierarchical, so you have manager and manager and manager, and then somebody who is doing the job, so then you have silos. Then you definitely have silos. And of course, some people are friends to another people in your organization, and they are communicating, but that's not the level we want to achieve. So to build communities in these hierarchical organization is a very hard thing to do. What we are doing with our clients is, first and foremost, we are declaring this as some kind of priority. We are making this visible. We are making this distinct. We are making organization aware that we have to do something in this area. That's the first one. The second one, we are not appointing some guy or some manager to build the community, because from my experience, that's not just a waste of time. It will not work. Perhaps not everywhere, but from my experience, it's not working. What we are doing, we are starting to find people who are not, how to say it in English, sorry, the people who care. The people who care about gathering knowledge and sharing knowledge. In every organization, there are some people like this. And you start talking with them, you're making them some kind of a group, not a team at all, but a group of people. And you are starting to make some, to deliver some meetings of this group. For example, it could be virtual meetings, because nowadays it's quite easy. You can open Zoom and you can just put a date in the calendar and you can make it open to everyone in your organization. Please come. If you want just to listen, please come. If you want to talk about this, to discuss something, please come. It's free. So there are some people who are making some discussions during these meeting times. It could be just some technical topics, for example, or management topics or methodologies. They can discuss pretty much everything. And then you will see that people will follow. Unfortunately, it will be quite a long time for people to follow. I would expect for, let's say, 2 or 3 months of the work, slowly building this kind of community. But at the moment, some moment in time, you will feel that this group have constant members, and your organization is aware of the existence of this group, and they are not comfortable anymore to be as one group, because there are too many topics to be discussed, too many knowledge to be shared. So they will by themselves split to several groups. For example, in one of the companies, one of my clients, they have a group for technical excellence, technical practices, the stuff with CI and CD and auto tests and everything. So they are getting together once in a couple of weeks, bi-weekly, and they're discussing topics like that. Nowadays, in these circumstances, they are getting together about 100 of people for one particular meeting. Most of them are listeners, but several of them are active participators. And then you can have another group of people discussing completely different matters and ideas, different topics, let's say methodological. So how we do our job, what is value stream, how to improve, how to find and remove bottlenecks, and what are the roles, what are responsibilities, stuff like this. And that's completely different matter. And they will be getting together, let's say, once a month. Pretty much a good coverage. So those communities will be growing. What I'm saying is that starting slowly, at some point in time, you will see that it will go faster and faster and faster. If you're doing this right, you will just create those kind of communities. And then there will be leaders, and then will be followers, and then there'll be guys who will say, I'm going to this very meeting every week because I'm learning something new. So something like this. But it's a long journey. Sorry, I took too much time answering this question. Perhaps if we have lots of more questions, please.
No,
continue.
it's fine. It's fine. It was like actually you answered already like another question that I would address.
Perfect.
So I'm going to skip this one, but
Okay.
this is going to be the last one regarding to management area, and then we're going to move forward for more techie questions. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So based on all the previous explanations from the teams and how to connect to each other, how to achieve the best from it, which are the capabilities that are best represented in a DevOps team, or basically which kind of capabilities usually it would be the best to have in a DevOps team? Tricky, actually, because you can have like different types of teams, I presume.
Actually, this question it needs some clarification, because you know, capability is a kind of strange word. It's it could mean so many different things. So if we are talking about capabilities, what my team can do, able to do, then I would say that I can name a few. Okay, I can name a few, and I can tell about that. If you are thinking and talking about how the teams are different from each other, so we can discuss differences as well. So I'm not sure which question is that. So I will answer the first one. Okay.
Okay, that's perfect, because I would say that it's more likely the competence side of the story about like which kind of knowledge it would be great to have for a DevOps team.
Right. So not the knowledge of a team member, but the knowledge of the team as a whole. I think it's like it is. So what I can tell you is that as I said in my presentation, there is no magical button to turn the team on, to switch it on. It's some kind of a road, and there are some phases during which a team constructs itself, builds itself. Of course, perhaps you know some models for this, like forming, storming, norming, performing, and others as well. So yes, the team is changing during this journey. So when we are starting, in my clients, when we are starting working with the team, with a new team, we cannot expect too much from this team because we are not invested in this team yet, and we have to spend our time to organize the work, to help them organize the work, etc. So one of the capabilities that we were looking at this moment is the team which is ready to be changed and ready to change itself. So if your team has no capability in this area, then you will be wasting a lot of your time and a lot of your efforts trying to bring something new to the people who are not willing to listen to you, not willing to change their way of working. Another thing at this stage, another capability of this stage is ability to learn, ability to be educated, to learn new ideas, to learn new principles. this is crucial at the very early stages of building a team. Then, if we are going forward with this team, then we are expecting for this team to be capable of some different things. One of these, very important from my opinion, is self-management or self-organization. And please don't get me wrong on this. I'm not against managers at all. But I think the focus of managing daily activities should be shifted towards the team, and the team should not be managed by somebody else in this area. They are making decisions how to proceed, how to make the work, how to organize. So this is a crucial capability for a team at the later stages. So they are getting responsibilities for how they do the work, and they took in responsibility for this, and this is quite important. So the last one, which I should mention, even later on the later stages, let's say after 3 months work with a particular team, then we are looking for a capability to be in continuous improvement mode. So the team actively seeks their own bottlenecks, actively seeks for the point for improvements for themselves, and then they can go without any support. So at this moment, after let's say 3 months, most of the time we are saying that we done our job with this particular team. From now on, they can move by themselves. They don't need any support, any external support in their improvement, in their processes. So this is a new capability that team gathers when it works on this route. I hope I got your question right, and I answered this.
I think you did.
Okay.
So now we're going to move forward for the techie side of DevOps.
Okay.
I hope I'm going to address the question correctly. I'm really sorry because I'm not techie at all.
Okay.
So I'll ask it to the person that gave the question, Franz. Please, if I say something incorrect, please complement your question over here because it's your question that I'm going to take up right now. So features are developed and provided constantly, but not all companies need them. How to keep up with the systems up to date? Not specifically in release moments. So what to do if I want to have a specific update released after 534 intermediate feature implementations? Question mark. Many times, systems need to be upgraded to specific versions before functions or features are available, or both belong together. Doesn't make sense to you? Because I don't know if I understood correctly the question. So I think
I hope I got the question right. So I will rephrase it, and then okay. I will answer it. So what I've got is that we have some kind of system or IT system or a product, and we have some kind of release cycles, and it's the thing that we need to keep for some reason. Okay, not a problem at all. We're keeping our releases for business reasons, and also we have some features that need to be implemented, and those features are not required by all our audience, all our clients, something like this. If we are talking about this question, I actually see two questions in this. One is technical and one is manager. So technical question is it possible to release some features for some clients and not make these features available to other clients? From what I know, it's perfectly possible. In most of the systems and most of the frameworks, it can be done, and I know teams that are doing this. And also, it's a thing that you can do with feature toggling. So there's a technology, there's some kind of concept, some idea which could be implemented. It's called feature toggling. You can prepare some features and turn them on and off if you want to in some periods of time or for some number of your clients, let's say. So technically, most of the times, I think it's possible. Of course, it's it's increased complexity of your system, of course. So this decision should be a very conscious one, especially if you have lots of features which are available to one part of your audience and not available to every part of the audience, or well, when you have not two but many dozens of audiences, types of clients. But from technical point of view, I think it's doable. If we are talking about managing problems that arises, then we are perhaps talking about how to work with our backlog, because these features which are not required by most of our clients, we need them to be implemented, but we also need a lot of other features to be implemented as well. So in this case, we need some kind of criteria, we need some kind of prioritization system, how to compare different features with each other to understand which one will go first. And this in this area, I can recommend to start working with your team, with your DevOps team, as the flow system. So they have their stream, they have the flow during the stream. So the decision that team should be making from time to time is which item to get into the stream next, to work on next. So your task is will be providing input to this stream, and you will be taking your features with the priorities in some kind of a queue, if you like. And the team doesn't need to be concerned with that, because the team can all just take the first one, the most important one, and work on this feature. But then the tricky question is how to compare different features with each other to make the priority, to make one on the top or the other one on the top. For this, I would suggest to think about the not a new idea at all, but a powerful idea of the cost of delay. Perhaps you know about this, perhaps you heard this phrase already. Cost of delay will help you to understand what is the difference between different features in terms of money and in terms of the duration for which you will not money, but any other business metrics, if you like, and the duration for this feature to be implemented. When actually do you need this feature to be implemented, and how the graph will look like? Will you lose a lot of money instantly if not implemented this, or if you get a lot of money instantly if you just when you implemented that feature, or it will grow slowly during the time, or it will bring you no money at all, but later on it will grow, stuff like this. So this is quite a powerful concept. I address it to this concept.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, you answered already more two questions that I had over here in my pockets to answer to ask you. But that's really fine. It's brilliant.
Okay.
So then, my last question to you, Oleg, is an easy one. Well, maybe not a so easy question, but let's try. Who, in your opinion, should be managing DevOps priorities? A project manager, a team leader, or someone else that could be maybe the DevOps leader or any other similar role? How do you see this?
Okay, I see. That's a good question as well. Yes, it's right from the practice. So this is actually a very good question. So first and foremost, let's split two activities or two areas, if you like. The first area is organizing the team, how the team doing the job, and the second one is what team is working on. So what's in front of them, what's in their backlog. Both those areas need to be managed somehow. So let's talk about the first one first. How the team should be organized. Who is organizing the team? In my practice, one of the first things we do is I'm hoping not to offend anyone, but we are walking away. We are removing project managers, because managing a project and managing a product is a completely different set of skills, completely different responsibilities, completely different mindset. And we are trying to get away from managing projects. So we are trying to get away from project managers. Now, I'm not saying that we are getting rid of project managers from our organization. No. Some of them could work as product owners or team leaders or something like this. But we need to change the mindset. So we are not using the word projects because we are not making projects anymore. By definition, project is something which is limited in time, and product is something which we are working on from this day on until the next, let's say, for the next couple of years. It's not a project at all. It's managed differently. So no, project manager will not be managing our DevOps team. It's impossible. Next, we are trying to, stay with me, we are trying to get rid of team leaders. Because if a team has a team leader, then team leader decides how this team should be working. Team leader organizes the work of this team. Team leader is responsible for results of this team. But it's completely different idea. We want the team to be responsible. We want the team to be in every way possible organizing their own work. Of course, it's easy to say and hard to do. Once again, and many of the teams which I helped had team leaders for, let's say, a couple of months, helping them to organize the work. But then we were trying to remove those team leaders so team can work by itself. Who is helping them? Who is helping our team to organize itself? Well, in my experience, we are always providing some guidance for a team as some kind of consultancy, some kind of methodological guidance. We are assigning in Scrum, it's a Scrum Master. In DevOps, this role could be called anything else, but that's a person who asks questions, who makes suggestions, who are not taking any decisions, who are not making any decisions instead of a team, but helping a team to move to the right direction. And this support, this consulting support, if you like, it should be for a couple of months or even more, like say 3 months, and then the team will do the work by themselves, and they will be organizing themselves, and they will be more or less managing themselves. So no project manager and perhaps no team leader as well. The second part of the question, who is managing what's in front of the team, the backlog? What are the most important things to do right now? What are those changes? Well, that's a different area, and I think I will not be explaining this due to time reasons, because it's already 1 hour, more than 1 hour we spent. So it's also some kind of a process, some kind of activity, and it could be organized without any project managers at all. But who will help us at this point is some kind of a product manager or product owner. And it's just a role, it's not a person. It could be several guys, several stakeholders who are deciding which feature is most important to be taken next. Stuff like this.
Thank you very much, Oleg, for all your explanations, for your webinar, for the content. It was very pleasant to see your presentation and then to hear all your explanations. Really, it was really brilliant, a pleasure for us. So on behalf of EXIN, I would like to say thank you very much to you, Oleg. I hope we can have more webinars with you leading the discussions. Yep. It's going to be really nice. I really adored. I think it was like a brilliant, all your explanations. It was very clear. So I'm very satisfied with the outcome of this. And for our audience, I would like to say also thank very much to be with us. And we would like to see you in the next webinars that are going to be promoted. Please don't forget to check also the DevOps book that was written by Oleg. You can acquire it with a discount that it was sent to your mail. And then also don't forget to check the EXIN DevOps Foundation certification and the professional and master as well. That the foundation level was based on the Oleg's book. So then actually, if you get the book and you study it, so then you can be certified as EXIN DevOps Foundation as your next step towards your career. You can find the book. Please access the exin.com website, then go to the certifications webpage, then go to DevOps Foundation. Then over there you can see the document prep guide. Over there you can find exactly the links and all the literature regarding to the Oleg's book. And then if you didn't receive the mail yet with the discount, please reach out to us via the contacts from EXIN, and then we're going to provide you the exactly link to buy the book at Van Haren's website with the discount. So just let us know. We are going to support you, okay, with both acquiring the book and also the exam if you'd like to. And if you'd like to, please don't forget to connect yourself on LinkedIn with Oleg. So you can find him over there, over the LinkedIn, and then you can share your details and then ask more questions if you'd like to.
Yes,
so,
please.
Oleg, thank you very much again.
Thank you, Ademar. Thank you. Thanks to the audience. It was my pleasure to do this webinar. I hope we will meet again with this majestic theme of DevOps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day to everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.